Welcome back to your complete guide to React Redux tutorial series. In the previous video, we created our reducer to handle all the actions coming into it. So as we progress on, we have created our action creator and we have created our reducer. The last part is the store. Okay, so now let's set up our store inside our React application. Okay, so let's get started. So this is where we ended. Let me close all these tabs and let me go to my folder structure, and I have a folder called store, but there's no file in it. So let me create one file called store.js, like so. Okay, so let me point out here that setting up the store need more code than the action and the reducers, but I'll try to make sure I explain it for you to understand what's going on here. Okay, so the store is a central point of our application, or where all piece of state lies when it comes to use. For example, if this application is a blog application or school management system, we have your students here, students record at the bank here, teachers record, academics, finance, everything here. So the store is a central point of state in your application. Okay, so all what action and the result are doing are what at the end of it all goes into the store. All right, so let's get started by setting up the store. So the first step is we have to create a file, as we've done, and then we need to import a couple of dependencies. Okay, so from Redux we need to import from Redux. And inside, we need to import a couple of things from Redux. One, a function or API called createStore. This is a function given to us by Redux for us to create our store. The next one is called combined reducers. Okay, so like I said, if you have multiple reducers, for example, you have the students, you have blogs, we have academics, need to combine all piece of reducers into that. So I'll explain to that as we move on. Okay, so let's continue. And then the next one is apply middleware. Okay, apply middleware. Okay, so this middleware is going to help us, okay, for us to handle async call inside our action. So like I said that, if you remember when I was explaining the action type, I said that our action is going to return a function. And that function, we have another function called dispatch here. And this dispatch is accessible inside our application because we install what? Redux Tank. Okay. And we are going to use this apply middleware to apply that thing to our store. Alright. So the last one is let's import the Redux Tank that we created. We installed. Okay, so from Redux Tank. Okay, so now the last part is I want to have this dev extension tool, this one. Okay, so let's install it separately. So go to your terminal. Sorry guys, let's go to our terminal here, open new tab, and then just install the package as yarn add Redux dev extension, like so. Okay, like this. Then hit enter. I already have it installed, so I'm good to go. Okay, so let's import that Redux dev extension tool. We are going to configure our store to have this tool and to have the middleware. Okay, so let's import that. So let's import API from Redux dev extension, Redux DevTools extension, and here we need one function called compose with DevTools. This is why people say that Redux involves a lot of boilerplate, and this is of course, even setting up this store, look at the things that we need to import before we can even set up our store. That is why Redux Toolkit come into our aid. So after this, I'll have a series on Redux Toolkit to simplify all these things in one of code. Okay, and we see the importance of using Redux toolkit. Alright, so the next part is that our reducer has individuals. So now, for example, let's create a function called reducer. Okay, and reducer, for example, if you have multiple reducers in our store, in our application, we need to combine them together to form one. Then you pass it to our store. So a way of combining all the pieces of reducers together is done by using a function called combined reducers. Okay, that is what Redux gave it to us. All right, and it's a function, and you pass in an object. So all this object going to hold a value and a property of all the reducers inside our store. So let's have one reducer called add to do. Okay, and it's a function. Okay, it's a function. So here you need to bring in our reducer that we created. This one, to do reducers. Okay, so let's go to our store here and then import to do reducer. Did I export it? Let me look at it well. So add to do reducer. Sorry, is add to do reducer. I have the auto import. Perfect. It's here. All right. So now I have to assign that one to my add to do variable. This one can be anything, but this one will be available inside our store. If you look at the complete one, if you go to our state, what do we have? I have add to do reducer. Okay, as you can see here. All right. So the last part, so assuming you have users reducers, you can add them here. Let me call this one users, and then we import the reducer inside here, and all of these ones will be available inside our store. Okay, so but for our case, we are handling only one reducer, so we are good to go. The next part is we need to pass in. So let's create our store. Okay, our store first, and let's see what the things that our store needs. Okay, so don't worry about a lot of things going on here. This is the pattern we're going to use. So if you practice this with two applications on your own, you'll be familiar with the syntax and the flow. Okay, so now let's create our store. So const store is equal to create store. Okay, and it's also a function. Okay, and this function I'm going to pass in a couple of things. First of all, pass in the reducer. All right, the next one, you pass in your initial state. Okay, always in the pass in your initial state. So let's declare our initial state here. So let me say const initial state is equal to object, and I have my to-dos but assigned to empty array. Okay, so I want to have by default my to-dos to be all my to-dos to be array, because I want to fetch all to-dos. But for example, if you want to handle, let's say, authentication, and this is where it's important to pass in your initial state, because for example, you can save the user in local storage and then pre-populate them into initial state, and it will always available in our store. Anytime you want to check if a user is logged in, you go back to our store and check if for initial state there's a user inside that property. Okay, so the next part is you need to pass this initial state as a second argument to our create store. So let me call this one initial state. And the last part of the cake is we need to pass in all middleware. Okay, for example, this thank middleware that help us to have this dispatch inside our action creators. So we need to do that. And you also want to configure it, passing something, and then to have this dev extension too. So as a start, this application we have here, as you can see, let me refresh it. So in this one, have you seen ours? What you are building, you don't have this icon here. If you look at the right here, we don't have that Redux icon. If you look at the complete one, I think it's loading, we have it. So now, as soon as we configure our store, be able to you pass in that. If you look at the final one, look, we have this Redux dev extension too. But for what you are building, we don't have it because we haven't configured our store to use that tool that we just installed. So let's go there and then let's get started. So the next argument you pass in here is called, you're going to, for example, if you want to pass in multiple middlewares, this is how you're going to do it. So you bring in the compose dev tool, okay, and then in here we bring in the apply middleware that we imported from above, okay, from here. Where is it? This one, okay. So where's my store? Yeah, apply middleware, and then it's a function call, and we want to pass this function all the middleware we want to use, okay. So let's create one middleware called thank. Remember, so thank this one. If I want to pass multiple middleware, I have to do in this way, okay. So let me make a function called here, sorry, a variable here called const middleware is equal to array of thank. What am I doing here? Here, then pass in as what? Thank, okay, and then let me label it here as what? Middleware, okay. So now I have to pass all this middleware to my apply middleware here using spread operator and the middleware as that. So I have to export this function. So export default store. Alright, so now we have finished creating our store. So if you don't understand any question going on here, you can leave a comment below and I'll take my time to explain to you better way. Okay. So I think this is what we need to pass in. Compose with DevTools. Where is it? This one? Sorry. Compose with DevTools. Alright. So let's export this one from here. Good. So the last part is that we need to wrap our application with this store so that every component in our application have access to our store. Alright, so let's continue. So here, let's go to where we are calling our parent component file, the index. Okay, where is it? The app here. So I'm going to pass it here, or let me go to, I think we can do it in the app component or the index component, but preferably let's import it from the index component. So let's import the store. Okay, so let me import the store here, and I have it here imported automatically. And the last API or function we need from Redux is called provider. Okay, so let's import it as this, import provider from Redux, and then let's wrap that function inside our component. Okay, so here let me cut this one, then let me bring here provider, okay, and then provider, and the inside I wrap it with my app component. And this provider takes in one parameter, one prop called store. Okay, store, and then you pass in our store like that. Good. So now let's go to our terminal. I think I have some import error here. Okay, line number 9. Let me go there and see. Number 9 of my store. Let's see if you can fix it. I have, oh sorry, it's not here, rather it's not here. We don't need to pass it from the combined reducers, sorry, on my side, but instead as here. Okay, so you have to pass in the compose with DevTools, and then you wrap, okay, with that. So compose with DevTools, and then you wrap it with the apply middleware like that. So compose middleware, DevTools, the function that takes in our apply middlewares and then pass into our store. Okay, so now let's go to our terminal and see if there's no error. Good. Now let's go to our application. Let's refresh it, this one, and see if you have our dev extension too. Alright, let's wait and see what will happen. So basically that is how we set up our application with React Redux. Okay, so it says that slice reducer for how to do return undefined during initialization. Okay, so one thing we need to take note about reducer is that, let me go back to the project. It's saying that when application gets started, in our reducer, we have state being undefined, and this is not accepted by what? By Redux. So it says that here, at the time our component runs, it goes through all these functions we called, right? So it's checking that, okay, now this is a reducer, it's my store. Does it have an initial state? So always need to pass an initial state to your store, and it's done from the action reducer here. So here we are saying that, okay, now when there is add request to do, make loading true. If you have success, add a payload. If you have reset, nothing. But whatever, because we are not calling this action, okay, add to do and then add success. So it's always return undefined, which is not accepted by what? Redux. So always you need to return your initial state. Okay, so our mistake that we did, it was that we need to return default and everything statement. Okay, let's say default here, and then let's return our state like that. So let's save it and let's see what we have. Let's refresh it and let's see if the error will go. Voila, now it's gone, and we see this extension 2. Let's go to our state, and then we have only one. Let's go to only one to do here. Voila, now we are good to go. We are able to set up our store with Redux. So guys, this is how it is. If you have any question, leave comment below, and make sure you are familiar with the flow, how to set up the action reducer in your store. And this we're going to use anytime you create application. So guys, thanks for watching.